I like to also pull the strangest faces at the start because it does the little icon at the beginning of everything. And if you're pulling a really funny face, people are like, "What is that?" Hi, Ian. You
Hello,
okay?
hello. Are you well?
I am very well. Yes, thank you. Um, I just want to apologize to everyone for the technical hitches that we had. That's caused a bit of a delay today. We were supposed to go live at 12, but we're live now, so we're just going to move swiftly on from that. And we're going to talk a little bit about how well we know who we're talking to. So, Ian,
Hello.
when you are doing your marketing, how do you know that what to say? How do you know, how do you come up with your content?
So again, I sort of try to do the same thing that I do in a face-to-face conversation. I try to typically find a problem that they'll be struggling with. So rather than telling people what I do, I'll try to find a problem that will resonate with them. So I tend to base most of my posts on a problem. You're
Mhm.
struggling when you're getting ghosted, or people focusing on your price, or you're not confident. There's normally a problem that's the driving force of my post.
Mhm. Mhm. And how do you know that they have these problems? Have you done some, where do you get your information from?
Well, I was the person.
Ah.
So my superpower is I've failed more times than they've tried. So I was the salesman that hated selling. So if they can find something they're struggling with or they dislike that I haven't already cocked up 1,000 times over, I'll be exceedingly surprised. I didn't create my approach for them. I created my approach, my alternative to selling approach for me. So when it comes to problems, all I have to go through is a huge Rolodex of all the things that have got in my own way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is great. That's the best kind of market research. If you've lived it,
Yeah.
right? Um, But presumably you're laying that on top of some other external information, presumably conversations you've had with people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So again, um, when I tell people, if I go into a room and I tell people the problems, I can see the room nodding up and down. So it's easy to see and then once you expose a problem, people say, yes, that's exactly it. I've struggled with this all my time, or I'm really bad at this. So once a conversation typically goes in the direction of we're not all perfect, we're open and honest, we're willing to say what we struggle with, then typically people will say things. Now, what they do tell me sometimes is not a different problem,
Hmm.
it's just phrased in a different way.
Hmm.
Might
Hmm.
tell me something that it's the same problem I'm trying to articulate, but they've said it in a different way. And that for me is I will grab their version and replace my version with theirs. I want it to come from the position of the person who's still struggling, not from the position who's found some answers.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, the best conversations that you have, who are they with?
So they're with ambitious businesses that
Hmm.
love helping, love providing their fantastic service, and hate selling.
And you know them pretty well, right? Because you either used to be them
Yeah,
or are them, or you've spoken to enough of them.
yeah. And they're not hard to find.
Mhm.
I reckon genuinely about 80% of small business owners love providing their solution, but don't like selling. They're not confident selling themselves. They're uncomfortable bringing up price because that wasn't what they didn't spend 20 years doing that. They spent 20 years building websites or 20 years creating branding or marketing strategies. I was a salesman that hated selling. So if it's okay for the person who's only done that to dislike it, it's certainly okay for someone who didn't do it to dislike it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, so I think what I do when it comes to actually diving deep into this topic, which is about how well you know who you're talking to, how well you know your ideal client. First of all, you need to know who your ideal, what makes them ideal. And
Yeah.
like you said, they need to be open-minded. They need to be ambitious. They need to be, they need to be honest and open about the fact that they may have problems, and who doesn't anyway. But they need to be able to be upfront about those things.
Yeah, it's those three things. It's
Yeah.
that honest. I don't mind I don't care if it's one man band or a huge team. I don't care if it's salespeople or non-salespeople. I don't care if it's a product or a service, business to business or business to consumer. I don't care what it is they're trying to sell. All I care about is the three things that you've mentioned. They've got a burning desire to do better, ambition, because if they don't want to do better, why on earth would they want to speak to me? Because they're already happy staying they are. Are they honest enough to, one, tell me they're not already perfect, but say, I struggle with this, I don't like this. And then the last thing is an open mind to new solutions. If I've got those three ingredients, ambition, honesty, and an open mind, I can work wonders. If one of them's missing, it'll collapse. But it's the same three things that you need. My marketing's not perfect. My strategy's not perfect. I'd love it to be better. I'm open to some new solutions. You're like, brilliant, great. That's it. That's for me what it's all about.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to add on. I'm going to add on to that. Sorry about that. I was checking if there were any viewers on LinkedIn, and I didn't realize that the sound was going to come through. Apologies. There's one more thing on top of those criteria that you mentioned, and that is what makes them ideal is how much they're prepared, how much they value what you're offering, your expertise, your guidance, your advice, your wisdom. And usually that's demonstrated with cold hard cash, right? So what makes an ideal client, not just a client, because there are lots of clients that are ambitious, they're passionate, they're honest, they're open, they have, all of those going for them, but some of them don't have cash.
See, for me, it's you want them to spend the cash, right? Think about, when someone says, oh, I haven't got any money to go out for a meal tonight, but they've just bought a £7,000 car, or they're going to Gibraltar next week for £3,000, right? For me, it's not that they don't have cash. There are very few people who have no cash.
Mm-hmm.
They don't prioritize you to use the cash on. If someone's spending £12 a day on cigarettes and then they say they haven't got tenner, they have, but it would mean they didn't have cigarettes potentially. So it's not that these people don't have money, but are they willing to? Do they see the value of what you do?
Value. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's why I said that first. Do they see the value of your expertise? Now, that's demonstrated with cash. Yeah. That they see your value and that they're willing to pay your high ticket offer.
Yeah.
But it's all based around how much value they think you're going to offer them. So an ideal client, the way I discern between, highly desirable, really good client is they have all the characteristics, but the ones that are ideal are the ones that are going to be throwing your high ticket money at you and saying, you must accept this money. or I'm desperate for you to accept this money. Well, you technically is begging you to take them on as your high ticket. Those are your ideal clients. And those are the ones that if you had them on a shelf in a shop, you would pay for them. Okay. Because essentially, what marketing is that payment
Yeah.
to buy an ideal client. I don't want to necessarily buy lots of like good enough clients. That's, you know, I don't want to necessarily. I'll get in touch with those myself, doing, you know, my conversations. I'll find those people. Those people will find me.
Mm.
But the ones that want to throw money at me and are desperate to work with, I want to pay for them.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is the client, that is the ideal client, that profile that we are working on, not just any good client profile.
That's why I'm going wrong then. Because, no, I'm being serious, because um, I've always tried to find the magic bullet.
Yep.
So I've got the approach: if you don't like selling, I can help you out. But if you said to me you loved it, I can also help you out, unless your sales conversion is perfect. And I try to appeal to. I'm trying to be all things to all men, right? And like you say, you'll always collect all people along the way. But I don't. For me, what I actually want, if I was to sort of narrow the game down, is for, like, I want teams. They could be a sales team, or they could be a team of non-sales people, customer service, accounts, technical. They're all involved, but they don't like selling. But where I've fallen foul over the years is I'm not ever directing it at anything. It's like I say, do you struggle with this problem? But it's not directed to anyone in particular, and it's certainly not aimed at managing director. Have you got this problem? I haven't aimed it there. My game's never. Yeah.
Yeah. And that, if you can buy a golden goose off the shelf, that's who we're talking about. When I say ideal client, I don't just mean the characteristics that make them great to work with. I mean the ones that are going to keep giving, keep laying golden eggs. Those are them. Those are the people that we want to talk to. So this is what we're talking about today. Some of the things that go into that profile are the things that we're very familiar with. We've got their, you know, what's their name, what's their age, where do they live, what's their occupation, you know, how well educated are they, what interests and hobbies do they have. These are basics. Then we move on to slightly more, especially for business to business, we move slightly into more detailed demographics, like, you know, what kind of business size you know, what kind of, you know, size is their business operation, how many employees, what industries are they in, what kind of turnover range are they in, and things like that. But then it gets really fun. This is where it gets to the next level. Psychographics, okay, is something that we kind of shy away from a little bit. But really, the things that we were talking about, like, are they ambitious? What kind of mindset do they have? What behavioral tendency? Are they impulsive? Are they considered? Are they risk averse? Or do they like taking risks? What mindsets do they have? Do they enjoy learning? Do they enjoy a challenge? What, you know, what is it that they, you know, what kind of mindsets status do they have at a base level? What are their values? Those kind of psychographics, we look at those as well.
I don't know any of that.
And this is where it starts to get interesting. Then we move into categorizing those things, and we say, right, an ideal client on the scale of I would pay money to work with them is a grade A ideal client. How do they think, how do they behave, where are they, where can we find them, where do they live, and all of those things. And then, you know, we scale it down all the way to grade D, which is a completely undesirable and who we would pay not to work with. Okay, but it's clarity that we're after here, because just as well as identifying who the ideal client is and how they what their characteristics are. We also want to know just as quickly if they don't fit. Okay. And if the characteristics of an ideal client means that, they like gummy bears and they only eat peas, whatever that is, we need to spot it straight away. And we need to be right. That's really nice to meet you, right at the beginning of the conversation. It's really nice to meet you. I know a few people that can help you. Maybe approach them. And, or I have some other things that could, but we're not a good fit. And we need to know who our people are just as quickly as we need to know who our people are not. Then we move into the fears and challenges place. Now, you talked about that's kind of your playground where you talk about people's problems and you kind of help them with those problems. Fears and challenges have a background. They have a background. They come from somewhere else. And describing what those fears are and how those fears have come about. For example, let's say they have a fear of, investing in marketing, but it just not working for them. Okay. Very common fear in my industry. People spend, hundreds, thousands of pounds, sometimes spend, sometimes years of their time investing into different systems and different tools and different people, coaching and all sorts of different things, and they just don't get that result that they were really looking for or that they were promised. It's, when you burned, people just feel like they just don't, it's very disheartening. So they're scared that that's going to happen again.
Yeah.
So we have to speak into that, and we have to say the way that we get around this is that, in my case, the way I get around this is there's no cookie cutter, there's no off the shelf anything in my business. Yes, I have a framework. Yes, I have a blueprint of the steps that I follow, but there's nothing that I'm going to pull off the shelf, a series of emails that's already prepared, that's perfectly written for Ian. That doesn't exist. we will write your emails together.
Yeah.
They will be a brand new set of emails. There's no pre-done, here's one we made earlier. That doesn't exist. Everything is done together from scratch for your business at this point in time. And we've worked together in the past.
Yeah.
And I would, when we work together again, we will go over all of those things and refine, because where you were when we first met and where you are now is different. Your business is different. The audience is different. Your ideal client is different. And we have to move all the marketing with that. It's an organic growing thing. We don't just build it once and done. That doesn't exist in this world. The digital age is moving so fast that we can't do that, because one phrase that I'm using for the first time today is going to be used 100,000 times in the next 2 months, and people are going to get bored of it, immune to it. It's not going to make any impact, and we have impact. So we talk about fears, and we open about what those fears are, and we need to know them quite intimately. Do you know what your ideal client's biggest fear is?
No.
There we go. We'll have to, go into that. We can go into that. Then challenges. So this is your piece that you've spent. It's what it sounds like. You've spent quite a bit of time around. What are their pain points, and how are they, how they're managing those challenges. It's usually in a few different categories. They just don't have knowledge. They don't have time, perhaps, or they've tried things that haven't worked and they may be disheartened. They just don't have the will to do it. There's, it makes them feel, sales makes them feel icky. Technical term, of course, so many challenges. And these are the kind of things that, tend to be where people sort of end up or start with, just like you have, which is absolutely fine. It's a massive part of it. So your audience has some challenges and pain points. What are those?
Yeah, I mean, again, because obviously my background was in numbers, right? So everything I do is very logical. So even when I'm trying to solve emotional problems, it's done in a logical way, right? I'm not even convinced I'm human. I'm so away from emotions. So I'd like to make everything binary. So if I was trying to find the biggest problem, well, one of the driving forces, a business isn't getting the success they deserve, right? They're not getting the success they deserve. Then, because I'm logical, I'll split that into two main factors, right? So the first thing is I'm not getting the success I deserve. Let's split it. So therefore, logically, you're not having enough conversations, or too many conversations are fizzling out, right? There's only really two options, and this is how my brain works, because then I can put them. They're in two sets. For most businesses, I know you go on Boots website and you click a button and it turns up. But for most people, they're having a face-to-face, a Zoom conversation, a telephone conversation before the person says, yes, please. So they've either got to improve the outcome of the conversation, or they've got to get more conversations. They're the only two things. So now it's very binary from me. I can start saying, well, is the problem for you not enough conversations, or is the problem for you too many are fizzling out? Most people will say it's both. Okay, but you can't tackle two sets of problems at once. It's too much. You're not going to get your kitchen redesigned and your garden redone. One or the other. Pick one. It's going to be chaos. So then people say, oh, I want to solve this problem. I'm not having enough conversations. And then obviously well, what's your marketing strategy like? Who are you talking to? What are you telling them? What pain points?
Mm-hmm.
It could teeter into me a little bit,
mm-hmm.
because people turn up to networking events and they've got a 10 out of 10 service, but a 2 out of 10 pitch. They can't communicate the value. So that's one of the reasons why it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
Or after that, so if I had to line it up, what's the biggest problem? They're not getting the business they deserve. That then splits into not enough conversations, or too many are fizzling out. Then I split those problems into more problems. Is it the message isn't simple? Is it they're not communicating value? Are they getting in their own way? Is it belief? Is it confidence? Is it self-sabotage? Is it assumption? So everything's goes it logically in one thing to the next thing to the next thing, which is most people aren't wired up that way, of all just ones and zeros, yeses and nos, groups and things. But that's how I see it. So,
and I love that that's the way you see it.
Yeah.
I love that that's the way you see it. It really makes it so much easier to digest when you describe it that way, that they're just not getting the business that they think that they should, that they really truly deserve. And breaking it down, when we did our session, when I did your session, we came down to my confidence and my confidence in the value that I was adding, and just going through that step-by-step process that you use really just pushed me on to having that confidence and that self-belief of, right, actually, yeah, I totally do give value. I totally do. And just, it just changed my entire conversation, my sales conversation game. It just completely changed the way that I approached it. So it's really important.
Like you say, if you don't value it, how can they value it? If you don't believe it, how can they believe it? You get in your own way. But where I sort of have my fears and things only almost stops at the word sort of fear. It goes a little bit further, but it doesn't go. When you were talking a minute ago about all the, yours goes much, much further. Mine's far more sort of short, stubby lines of, is it belief, value, fear? It sort of stops there, whereas your fear and it goes on, and
Yeah.
it goes on further down. But then this is a world that I don't know as much now. It's sort of, that gets thin for me.
Yeah.
Like what are their passions? What are their interests? And I'm thinking, I haven't got a sodding clue.
Well, it goes even further. So it doesn't stop at the challenges and the pain points. There's more. There's more. Okay, because you have fears and challenges. You want to understand what motivates, and what their desired results are. So there's going to be something that they will desire so much that they will do anything for it.
Yeah.
And we need to know what that is.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's nothing to do with the business directly. So let me take myself as an example. I have a run of birthdays. This sounds really random, bear with me. But I have a run of birthdays that starts at the end of October with my birthday, and then ends, on the 24th of January. It's a few months, but it's a run of birthdays and celebrations and things where my primary kind of goal in that period of time is to make magic in our life as a family, right? My kids' birthdays, it's Christmas, it's my birthday. I want to live a little. So I need my business to be able to sustain the fact that actually usually between end of October and the end of January, I'm on half-time hours, really.
Yeah.
Because I need to make magic. I need to make magic happen. Christmas doesn't just, be magic. You have to make it happen. So in order to do that magic, I need cash, I need time, flexibility, and I need my business to do that for me. Right? So what motivates me isn't that there's 10 leads coming in within that period of time. That just happens to be that there are 10 leads coming in, because that means that I can do what I need to do and make the conversations and still sustain the income coming in. But my priority is making magic happen. And I will do whatever I have to do to make sure I can make the magic happen and live those few months, in the best possible way. So sometimes your goals and the motivations that your ideal client have are not what you would think they are. Like, getting the business that they deserve isn't necessarily their motivating factor or their desired result. It's part of it, but there's something else before that.
I'll tell you what, this came to me a few minutes ago, right? It just sort of clarified in my own head. I was just sort of writing something down. So I always use this. So I say people buy on emotions and justify with logic. The example I always use is you go into a shoe shop with 1,000 pairs of shoes, you pick up 3, not the other 997, only the ones that you thought would make you look good, make you look great, make you look smart, possibly even one that would make you look like a pillock, right? Just because you're thinking that looks a silly shoe. But the other 997 were neither good enough to make you look good, or they were good enough to make you look like an idiot. They were nothing. They were just, you're not bothered, right? So you pick up the shoe. So the first half is some sort of emotional lust of the shoe, right? But then as the shoe comes towards you, so does the sole. And on the underside is the price. And that's where you go, I love these shoes. And you'd thought maybe 60, but it says 280 quid. You go, oh, and put the buggers back, right? And it didn't, you had to pick, you only picked 3 of the 1,000 shoes up because you were bought into them emotionally, but you still had to justify it logic, and one without the other doesn't work. If you didn't want them, you don't pick them up. And if you picked them up, you couldn't justify it, you still put them back, right? But so there's bought on emotions and justified with logic. But this is what I was just thinking a second ago. You see, I'm trying to tackle emotions with logic, right? So I only can see, like, I've only ever got, because I'm tackling emotions with logic, I only get to very logical statements, which is they're not getting the business they deserve. And all the other things that sit above that or around it don't exist really in my world, right? Or I'm not tuned into them. But equally, when people are emotional, they're struggling to tackle value because they're doing value not in a logical way, but they're tackling logical emotion. They're tackling logic with emotion. So we're both in the wrong. We're all in the wrong camp. We're trying to tackle emotions with logic and logic with emotions, and neither will actually get you. I can get you to they're not getting the sales they deserve, but not to all the other stuff that you actually need to get to. And again, the other half is true. If you can't get them to justify that price,
Yeah.
if you can't communicate value in money, they won't. And you can tell people emotions, but I don't know if anxiety is worth 60 quid. I don't know if the word anxiety has a worth of £60. One's a word, one's a number. But this is so we need to look more and more into this, because I'm not, when you've said things, there's all this other stuff.
Yeah.
It's like I've got to, I'm like, it's like the key, I'm in a jail and the keys are 2 meters away, but my arm won't stretch that far. I'm stuck in the jail and I can't actually get to I can't get to anything. I can't get to that world of what's really driving them.
Yeah.
Without your help, I need you to pass me the stick that I can edge the buggers towards me or something.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I do. I just want to say a shout out to Marco. Ciao, Marco. Thanks for saying hello and dropping in. Yeah, I think I think a lot of people have, my logical brain doesn't go as far as your logical brain. My sort of empathetic and emotional goes a bit, so together we're a really good team. And I think they say you can't, life is a team sport, right? So and business is a team sport. That's what, we just need to lean on each other. And part of the beauty of this framework that I work on for the ideal client is that it really just puts in a logical way, right? Let's focus on this, let's focus on this aspect, the motivations and the desired results, and let's see if we can identify 1, 2, 3, motivating factors, what they want, what their desired results are. Maybe like a primary, secondary, tertiary goal that they have in mind.
So, with giving them, like, so I don't know when we're doing our next session, but could we start, with me, I'm quite happy to play, because it's true, start looking at some of these, these driving factors with me so I can get a better idea of what you mean and how to start looking for it.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got a template here. This framework goes on and on. We got to item 7 on a list here of 19 topics. Yeah. Okay. So if for the next Dancing Cat and Dog episode, I'm more than I'm more than happy to go through the fears and the motivations and desired results with you, and let's see how we can bring it to life a little bit.
I've got no fear of exposing my lack of skills in your sector whatsoever, so I'll be a perfect guinea pig for that. So if we wrap this one up today, and then next time we could start from that position, would that be all right?
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
I was trying to think of a little jingle, but I haven't quite got it down. It's a dancing cat and dog. It's just a dancing cat and dog. I'm the cat and you're the dog. That's wrong, isn't it? Dog and I'm the cat. That's wrong, isn't it? So we're the dancing cat and dog. Something like that.
Love it.
So lovely little ditty. We'll work on that. It'll only get worse. But again, so just people have listened to you and to me. It sounds like the Michael Jackson song, doesn't it? For a minute, you and for me. But where can they go to start picking up some of your ideas and workbooks and books and anything else that will start helping them? Where can they go, Kat?
they can go to my website, which is allthews.ckgmarketing, all one word, .co.uk. And if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, you should find some links that take you to some tools and free resources. I am in the process of putting a checklist together for this ideal client profile development framework. It's by no means as deep as it is when I go through it with you, but it's a starting point to get you thinking about some of these things. So look out for that. That's coming soon.
And if they go to www.iangenius.co.uk, that's www.iangenius.co.uk. Scroll down about 3 or 4 inches. There's a 5 things you never considered to improve your sales ebook, free of charge. You'll see there's a fix your leaks. So if you think you've got any sales leaks, if you're gutted about being ghosted, sick of settling for low ticket yeses, struggling to charge what you're worth, just click the button. Let's work out what is the problem. Is it confidence? Is it messaging? Is it price getting in the way? In 30 minutes, I can show you something. So there's a free session there. So go to www.iangenius.co.uk. But I'm Ian Genius with an Ian Genius alternative to selling. And who are you?
I'm Kat, putting the me wow in marketing.
Yes, indeed. See you next time.
All right. See you next time, Ian. Bye.
Bye.